Welcome to the Black Appalachian Coalition's podcast entitled Black Remembering, where we will bring to you the heavy and the hope across the Ohio River Valley. We want to remember who we are, where we've come from. We want to speak to the oral history of what we've done, what we've achieved. We want to speak to the ills that we have experienced while also finding solutions to those problems, those issues. We want to deal with the narrative that has kept us deeply rooted in despair. Now we want to punch through that narrative and stand up and say, we are remembering our Black past, and we are rooted, and we are here to stay. Welcome to Black Remembering. We hope that you find your place, your space, and your voice in this podcast.
Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the Black Remembering podcast, where we highlight the heavy and the hope. As y'all know, tax season is upon us. And I don't know about y'all, but tax season and all things related to taxes brings up a lot of complex feelings for me. I don't understand taxes, and most of my loved ones don't understand them either. There seems to be a barrier of knowledge that isn't offered in schools. So for the next few months, we'd like to offer our listeners the Tea on Taxes series, where we will demystify taxes. The Tea on Taxes series focuses on honest conversations with community members about their relationship with finances, taxes, and economics, followed by conversations with Black tax experts who are kind enough to offer their knowledge to our audience. This episode of the Tea on Taxes series welcomes a very special guest, President Patryce Rispress of PAK Accounting. Thank you for coming onto the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So here's a bit of info about President Rispress. Patryce Rispress is a seasoned accounting and business consultant with over 20 years of experience in financial management, bookkeeping, tax planning, and business strategy. As the founder of PAK Accounting, she has helped small businesses, startups, nonprofits, and real estate investors establish solid financial foundations, maintain compliance, and optimize their financial performance. Her expertise includes business structuring, grant management, payroll services, and project management, with a strong focus on helping entrepreneurs navigate the complexities of finance, budgeting, and tax strategy. She has worked closely with startups and established businesses to implement scalable financial systems, ensuring long-term sustainability and growth. With a hands-on, client-focused approach, Patryce provides strategic guidance to businesses looking to streamline operations, maximize profitability, and position themselves for success. She also partners with financial advisors, grant writers, and legal professionals to offer comprehensive support beyond accounting. Her passion for empowering entrepreneurs and helping businesses thrive has made PAK Accounting a trusted resource for those looking to build and scale their ventures effectively. Patryce was born and raised in Columbus, Ohio, and relocated to North Carolina. When she is not working, she enjoys spending time with her children and family, traveling, cooking, including the lost art of canning, and serving as her family's unofficial historian. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
Okay, so I wanted to dedicate this episode to really focusing on you and PAK Accounting. So I would like to know, what's your story? And did you always know that you wanted to be an accountant, or is it something you discovered along the way?
So my story, I forgot where to start. So no, I did not always know I wanted to be an accountant. I've always been good with numbers. I've always excelled in math, which you always hear, most of us say. Never can forget a number. Always know everybody's birthday. You give me your address, your phone number, I would just retain it. Of course, the older I get, the less I'm retaining as far as like phone numbers. I was born at a time where we did not have cell phones. So you had to remember phone numbers. But now, Chris, with cell phones, you don't know nobody's number anymore. No. Accounting, I was a hairdresser at first. I always wanted to do hair, been doing hair all my life. And once I got my cosmetology degree, I went to school because I was like, well, it would make sense because I would need to know how to run a hair salon. So I went to school to get my business administration degree. And while I'm in that class, you had to take everything. You had to take accounting, HR, all these different things because there was no concentration. It was just generic. You had to take everything because in business, you're going to hit all aspects. And I was taking accounting, and my professor pulled me to the side and said, "You're really good at accounting. You should really think about majoring in this." I'm like, no. Like, I want to do hair. I want to own my own salon. Like, that's where I was. But for some reason, I listened to her and I was like, I do like numbers. And this is something my family has always told me, that I was good with numbers. One of my aunts told me that I would be a teacher or an accountant when I was 8. So go figure. Um, that was very true. So anyway, end up majoring in accounting because I was then thinking along the lines of owning my business. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a hairstylist. I'm going to run my business, but then I would need to understand the numbers. So then I went ahead and went to school for accounting, loved it, and the rest is history. I did not continue doing hair because if people know if you're a cosmetologist, the wear and tear of you stand on your feet for hours, 18 hours, 15 hours. I mean, it's nonstop to do that. So you know, I was just like, okay, well, you know what? This accounting thing might be really good. And so I got into accounting, and then I ended up going to get my master's, just because I was thinking I didn't know if I want to get my CPA or CMA. And I went ahead and went and got my master's and just start working in all kinds of fields, of accounting. Name it, I've pretty much done it. So that's pretty much how I got started.
I love that you said that so casually. Like, yeah, I just went ahead and got my master's. That is excellent. I love it. Um, so you were one of the first people to respond when I put out my generic feelers for anyone who might be interested in demystifying taxes for the Black community. And I appreciate you so much and wanted to know, why are you passionate about demystifying taxes?
I think in our community, we don't talk about taxes. We don't talk about it. A lot of our community, you wasn't raised to talk about credit or taxes. It's just something that you do. It's just another check mark in life. And when you don't have an understanding of something, you will automatically get fear, right? So my firm is really big on community, right? We like to empower and educate. So that is part of my mission statement, is to make sure that we're educating our communities, near and far, because also in our community, in our culture, we're in that status quo, like, oh, let's not talk about it. Or you don't have meet a person that wants to share. I'm a big person that believes in uplifting each other, whether it's in business or personal. So, I responded to you because I'm like, yes, this is something that we need to talk about. And in our current climate and the changes that are occurring and the things that may happen, I think it would be good for people not to be afraid of taxes. We hear those 3 letters, IRS, you hear those 5 letters, taxes, and people automatically get scared and be like, oh my God, I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to do this. And everybody and their mom does taxes, but everybody doesn't do it correctly. So I think it's high time for professionals as myself that understand if you do X, then the consequences can be Y, and even not understanding what tax planning is. So I think that's something, again, we don't talk about. A lot of people don't even know what tax planning is. So I think it's important to, like I said, educate.
The day that you mentioned tax planning was the day that I had ever heard of tax planning. So there was a listening session that we recorded with a few Black women in North Carolina. And listeners, if you haven't listened to it, please go ahead and listen to that. It'll put this in more context. But a lot of what they mentioned was not understanding, was the fear, just this constant fear and desire of not wanting to be punished for what they don't know. And the root of that conversation kind of reaffirmed the importance of this series. Like, there's this violent historical fear of prison, of jail, that's hanging over our community. And also, why is this information being held so close to the bone, essentially, and being gatekept from certain communities? So thank you for the work that you do. And I was curious as to what are the top three things your clients tend to ask for help with?
So I think the top three things that people ask for, one, they don't want to pay a lot of money for taxes. So they want to reduce that or get a refund back. Um, Number two is how can they scale their business? You know, running a business and scaling is two different things. So, of course, that's where the numbers come in. And I would say the third thing is how can they add other things? Like, can they buy an asset? Can they do this expense? And what's going to happen if they do that with their business or not?
Thank you. That's also one of the some of the questions that came up in the listening session is how do I get to a place where I don't have to owe next year? And when we spoke a while back, you mentioned the concept of tax planning, and you mentioned it earlier in this conversation, which again I've never heard of before until I talked to you at my big age of 28. So, what knowledge do you find most clients have never been exposed to?
Again, this goes with our culture. We grew up and it's like, it's tax time. We about to get money. You're gonna carry these children and we're gonna get money back, right? This is our 40 acres and a mule. This is our money to get back for all the hard work that we do. But it's bigger than that, right? So it's kind of like when you get hired for a job, you get these W-4s, which are withholding statements that's going to explain, you put your name, your social, and it says, do you work at another job? If so, do $1,000. Do you have any children? If so, add this. Well, that is going to distinguish how much money is taken out of your paycheck. And of course, the more withholdings that you add, the less money that's going to be taken out. And of course, we all are in this hamster wheel to say, like, I want to make sure I can take home as much as I can. But then on the back end, you're going to be paying the taxes at the end of the year. And you're like, oh my gosh, why? Well, you didn't have anything taken out of your paycheck. So on your paycheck, you'll see your gross pay, and then you'll have your federal and medical and all that. And if your federal is saying zero, that's going to determine how much you're paying into the taxes, which is going to determine how much money you're going to pay or you're going to get back. We never want to see that zero. You don't want to have it very low either. So this is where tax planning comes in. How can I alleviate not paying taxes at the end of the year or not paying a lot? I'll put it that way. So professionals like myself, we try to plan that. How do we lessen that blow at the end of the year? Do we have to do a lot of business owners do estimated taxes? We also put business owners on W-2s and we push it through that way, take out taxes for them to pay so they won't owe a lot at the end of the year. People who are W-2s and they owe, we also try to make sure that we can tax plan and say, okay, on your W-4, let's put zero or let's put one, depending on your situation, so that when the end of the year comes and you're filing, that now you're not owing that $2,000. Now you're either getting a refund back or it's less than that amount. So the tax planning is looking at how you're doing your withholdings for your state and for your federal, making sure that there's enough coming out, because sometimes people put zero and they think that's it. But also, when you get those raises, what does that mean? It means that you're going to have to adjust your withholdings because now you could potentially be in another tax bracket, which means now that zero is not enough taxes coming out, or maybe it's too much coming out. I don't know, because everybody's situation is different. And tax planning doesn't look just at you, It looks at your entire tax situation. And what I mean by that is if you're married, the dependents that you carry, if you take care of your mom and she lives with you, your children, if you have a kid in college, all those things is a tax situation. And all those mean different things. Tax planning will include the credits that the IRS allows you to have and the deductions that you have and the things that are going to affect your income. So there's a plethora of things that goes into tax planning.
I heard this comment in the listening session, and it didn't really sound right, but I'm not a tax expert, so I wanted to ask you. So, one of the people who spoke said that her HR person told her that since she's an adult without children, no dependents, that she could write herself down as a dependent because she's taking care of herself. Is that true?
Yeah, so on the withholding form, it does ask you, it specifically does say you can put down this amount if you're carrying, if you are, no one else can put you on their taxes. So meaning like usually if you're in 25 or under, your parents can still claim you as a dependent. So true, she could do that, but then also it can have an adverse effect on her. So she doesn't know, you don't know what you don't know, right? So sometimes depending on if you make a certain amount of money and then you're claiming yourself, then that means it's going to reduce the amount of taxes that's potentially coming out, which means when it comes time to file taxes, now she's going to owe money because she did not have enough money coming out of her taxes. And tax laws have changed, right, over the years. They definitely have. They're not what they were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, pre-COVID. A lot of stuff has changed. So the tax forms have even changed. And they're a little confusing, now where before you could just put one, two, three, whatever. Now you have to fill in all these forms, all these numbers and stuff. So it is a little confusing. And I wouldn't necessarily say if you are at a W-2 job, don't take your HR's situation, they say, as what it should be because they don't know your whole situation. They just know you're an employee of that business. And that's all they know about you. They don't know if you own a business. They don't know if you're married. They don't know how many kids you have. They don't know if you have any type of retirements or HRA. They don't know all of that. So never take tax advice from a person that's not a tax professional.
Heard and received. Thank you. Thank you. What barriers do you think exist currently in our society when it comes to education around taxes?
I think one barrier is people don't like to share. That's a huge barrier. People don't like to share. People like to, as you said, keep it to their chest. So sometimes people in our society feels like, hey, this person is trying to get one up on me or make more money. This table is so big of money, we all can eat at it. So I think that's one big thing. People just don't like to share. They're scared about it or they feel like people are going to take advantage of them or whatever. But, sharing is caring. The older you get, the more wise you get. And I think it's important that, we uplift each other, which I said that earlier. Another barrier is everybody has different information, right? Depending on, who you are and what you've been exposed to or what you've studied or you may not have studied. We are in the era of what's on social media. So you hear something on TikTok or Instagram, people are running with it. I can't tell you how many times I get clients be like, hey, is this true? And sending me IGs or TikToks or Facebooks of something that somebody has said. And it's like that might be partially true, but it's not the whole story. Some of those are true to a point. But again, no one can really tell you what you're going to get back, what's going to happen because no one knows your whole tax story. And that's something that people have to keep in mind. I get calls all the time and say, hey, I made X amount of dollars this year. I have one kid, they're 5. What am I going to get back? Am I going to get any money back? I don't know because there might be other instances that you're not telling me about, you know? People do it also with business. I made $100,000 this year. I wrote off, $70,000 in expenses. That means I'm gonna have $30,000 profit. That's not always true. Well, if you had depreciation, did you have a car? What about your assets? So there's just so many things that's involved. And like, I feel like I wouldn't be doing my due diligence if I can just give you an answer because it's not the right answer. We are in a microwave society, and therefore we want those quick answers. But those quick answers can also get you in trouble in the later because now you're going to go off and say, well, hey, this person said that I should be able to get back $5,000, but how is a person supposed to know all the details, all the intricate details that may be involved when it comes to your taxes? They don't know until they actually look at it. So I never tell anybody, yes, you're going to get X amount of dollars back. I always say, well, I need to look at everything. You could potentially be owing, but I can't really tell you that much. I've been doing this for 20 years, so I can might say, hey, you're going to be paying, but you're not going to probably pay no more than X amount of dollars. So I try not to give somebody an exact number or a roundabout number because I don't want you to be feeling some type of way if it doesn't go that way.
So, in your experience with discussing taxes and finances and economics, I'm sure you've run into like that hesitance and distrust and people feeling uncomfortable. What's your approach to helping your clients find comfort in discussing such hard topics?
I think one thing is explanations, just explaining things to people and communicating. I get people who come to me from other tax preparers or agencies, your well-known agencies who, especially with businesses, they may not have experience doing it. And a lot of times people just fill out a form and say, hey, sign it. But I think, then you're getting a letter from the IRS and you're getting audited or something somebody put down. You need to pay attention what somebody puts on that tax form. Don't just sign your name because now you are responsible. Um, and that tax professional, I've seen a lot of tax people get off because of that. So when you get your taxes filed, ask questions. So I think just me opening it up to be having that line of communication and say, okay, do you want to go over it? Sometimes people don't want to go over it. I'm like, listen, we need to go and so you can talk about it because we also have suggestions for next year. What can we do? So I think that's one thing how I build trust and, just the point of having communication. So I'm really big on communication. It's in all my agreements. If you become a client, too, we have to communicate. Like I cannot work with you and help you if we can't communicate. If I'm not available, I definitely have somebody in my staff that's available and we'll get you an answer. But, it's to help you further whatever it is that you're trying to do, whether your career, your business, or whatever. So I think just having that line of communication, that's a lost art. So I think just communicating and just being upfront and honest with somebody and walking them through the process. And no, you're not going to understand everything, but try to explain something in terms that you'll understand.
Thank you. In the listening session with the two Black women, they were from Buncombe County and Henderson County, North Carolina. And they listed a few questions they'd like to pass along to a tax expert such as yourself. So I wanted to give voice to those. The first question, what steps do I need to take this year to set myself up for success next year? She mentioned like, should I have receipts? Should I save those? What documents should I set aside? Things like that.
One thing for sure to set yourself up if you have a business is to definitely keep receipts. Back in the day, we used to get shoe boxes of receipts, which you're definitely going to pay for a person to go through and count all those. They have so many different softwares out here that can assist you. Some of them are free or very, very minimal. And guess what? It's a write-off. So you have your QuickBooks, you have your Wave, you have FreshBooks. It's multiple different ones that you can just attach to your phone, to your bank account, to your credit card that will pull in all those expenses and kind of categorize it for you. Or you can get with a firm And, we can categorize those things. But the one thing that you definitely want to do is really work on organization. So organizing your expenses. Some people are still a little leery of using these different accounting software. So it has to be a way that you are able to keep up with your expenses. So some people do your Excel. You doing your Excel every time you go get gas, you have that receipt and you're documenting that. So making sure you document. We always want to have a way that we are able to see what it is that you spent. Because if you were ever to get audited, you need to have a paper trail. So always keep a paper trail of everything that you do, especially when it pertains to your business. That's very, very imperative. I can't say that enough. Also, if you don't do that, if you're not an organized person, work with somebody that is organized that can help you, accounting professional, or maybe there's somebody in your family that is good with, keeping up with money, because you don't want to come at the end of year and have money left on the table, or another thing is be careful about commingling funds. If you do have a business, make sure you open up a business account. Don't, run it out of your personal because that is now the commingling of funds, and we can't determine if you went out to eat and you're saying it's business, but it technically could be personal because it's in your personal account. So you want to be able to definitely distinguish what's business and what's personal. If you are a person that doesn't have a business, I would say definitely talk to your tax professional, especially when it comes time for you to get your raises, or maybe you want to put a little bit more money in your retirement or start a retirement. What effects will that have on you going forward? So,
Thank you. And speaking of which, that's kind of a segue into the next question. Is it a good idea to have high health insurances, high life insurances, if it sets you back on your taxes?
dependent upon the person, there's multiple different types of, medical insurance. You have your regular group plans that's through your companies. If you're a W-2 employee, you can also, as a business owner, go ahead and have, your own group insurance, or they got the marketplace, or you have people who are, dibbling out with HRAs, and so different things have different effects. So, yeah, like I say, it will be dependent upon the individual and what they're trying to achieve.
I'm going to recommend that they both come to PAK Accounting. Um,
Thank you.
so, would you please leave our audience with a little nugget of wisdom? Any advice or affirmations that you'd like to share are welcome.
Sure. I would say one thing that I'm a big believer of is two things. Your network is your net worth. Um, I'm a big believer in networking. When you're somewhere and you're the only one in the room, you went somewhere by yourself, don't be afraid to open your mouth. It's always about who you know, not what you know. So no matter how much schooling you have, I've seen some people who are some of the richest people I know and don't have any schooling. And it's all about their network, who they know and who they've been in a room with, who they're not scared to talk to. Another thing is I'm a believer that, you meet people for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Quit trying to figure out which one a person is and just let it organically happen. Some people come in your life just for that season of your life to help you get through it, and then they're gone. Some people will be there for a reason, or some people could be all three. So I think those are important that I live by in my life, and that has helped me, has nothing to do with business or anything, but just those two things have just kept me grounded and helped me, you know, go through my journey.
I never know what to expect when I ask that question, but you spoke right to me. So thank you. A reason, a season, and a lifetime. And
Hmm.
your network is your net worth.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm grateful to have met you, and I'm not even hoping. I know we're going to stay in community with each other. For the audience, please keep up with President Rispress by visiting PAK Accounting's website and following PAK Accounting on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Our team will make sure these links are available to y'all in the show notes. We will hear more from President Rispress later on in the Tea on Taxes series. Tune in for more information and advice on demystifying taxes, and go ahead and share this good news with your community. Until next time, peace and blessings, y'all.